Bring the meeting to order. Any public comment?
Not I.
No public comment? Okay, not for items to be discussed in closed session.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll be adjourning to the kitchen for closed session for a conference with real property negotiator, me, location 2950 Riverside Drive, Supervisor, California. The subject is to provide direction to property negotiator regarding price terms and potential purchase or lease. And the individual that we're negotiating with is Mr. H.W. Heinrich on behalf of real property. We will also be meeting telephonically with labor negotiator Rick Kay, which in this conference may include the following bargaining unions: Lassen County Peace Officers Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Supervisors Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Management Association, and Lassen County Deputy Sheriff's Association. And we had previously agendized performance evaluation of myself, the county administrative officer, because of the location today and agenda. We're going to postpone that till next week.
Okay, with that, we'll go to the kitchen for closed session. The American.
I don't know.
Put up the stars and stripes.
There's one place, if I'm down feeding cattle, I can't.
I was gone all weekend up in Monterey all weekend. So she's still fencing. So it turned out real well.
My old stomping grounds.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nice place to visit.
Well, I grew up in a little bitty town in Monterey County.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome. The donuts.
Jim, welcome. Okay, I think we got everything we need. About 9:30 yet? That one's at 9:32. So go with the clock there. Okay. We bring the meeting to order. Jeff, would you?
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you to clothe us in wisdom and fortitude that we may dispense our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Amen. Okay, next would be announcement of items discussed in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board met in closed session for a conference with real property negotiator, CAO Richard Egan, regarding 2950 Riverside Drive property in Susanville, California. The purpose of the conference was to discuss price terms and potential purchase or lease of the property. Negotiator property's behalf is Mr. Bill Hedrick, and there was no reportable action. The board also met for a conference with labor negotiator Rick Hay telephonically, and that conference included the following bargaining units: Lassen County Peace Officers Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Supervisors Association, Lassen County Peace Officers Management Association, and Lassen County Deputy Sheriff's Association. There was no reportable action.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Next, agenda approval, additions and or deletion. Staff have any changes? No. Board. Mrs. Spencer?
It was on the other one when you were looking at and changed agenda items. I had a comment on his statement.
Okay, I can't hear you, so come and we're back up then to announcement of item discussed in closed session. Is that legal?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I can speak a lot louder.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I'd like the board or Mr. Egan to confirm that C. Pizzulo is connected to this property. If you confirm or deny it, because we do have information on that.
I don't have a comment on that.
I don't have no knowledge of
Thank you.
it. Okay. Any other questions on the announcement of items in closed session? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda approval, additions and or deletions. Anybody from the public? Nothing? Okay. I need a motion to approve the agenda as is.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Ayes have it. Public comment. I got one card here, but it's in the state of Jefferson. Anybody else on public comment? Sir? Yeah, go to the podium and state your name for the record.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Dennis French. I am a Navy veteran, retired Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and I currently work part-time as a veteran career specialist at the Veteran Service Office in Susanville. And I would just like to comment on the proposal for the State of Jefferson Declaration that we are greatly underrepresented in the North State and these counties, and I am in favor of submitting the formal declaration to separate to the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with the speak at public comment? There, Don, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Don Armentrout, a resident of Susanville, and I am opposed to that declaration on economic means. Now, the stories that have been told to you about how simple it will be to keep this state going because you'll get all these funds reminds me a lot of the fairy tale of the Pied Piper. You will not be recognized as a state for several years by Congress. And while that is happening, there will be no federal funds. The state of California can, and they're looking for, ways to save money. One of the best ways they can do is move the prisoners out of the 2 prisons here into other prisons within their confines. Offer the correctional officers a chance to transfer. And then you'll be sitting there with 2 empty prisons and no correctional officers who spend a lot of money in this county. Those officers will transfer out. They will try and sell their homes, and the real estate market will dump. Now, we say, well, this won't happen. Yes, it will. In the states of North and South Dakota, Congress debated for 10 years and finally decided that rather than have one state within a state, why don't we have 2 states, and here's the boundaries. They'll debate this issue quite heavily. The state will probably look at it too. And then when you're desperate for money because you're not getting state funds, you're not getting federal funds, the only your highways and streets will start to deteriorate. The state will come back with a very friendly offer. We'll make a deal with you, and rather than release the prisoners in towns near the prisons, we'll ship them up to you and pay you for it. Economically, this makes no sense. You have no choice but to understand you're going to be broke for a long time. And will you recover once everything starts happening the way it's been described to you? I doubt it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Robert Batcher, is that right? You want to speak now or during this later?
Morning, Your Honors. Hey, my name is Robert Bacher, and I've been a Lassen County resident for 19 years. I'm a retired CO from High Desert State Prison. I'm an honorably discharged Navy combat veteran from our most recent deployment was in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I did a 1-year-long tour of Baghdad at that time. I've been retired from the Navy since 2009. I've been a member of a local church here for 18 years. I don't smoke or ingest marijuana or THC or any of that stuff in any way. I did some in the 70s when I was in high school, but it's not my thing. Still isn't. But in the future, if I needed it, I would hope to be able to have the freedom to have it. With that all being said, I do believe that the God that I believe in told me in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, that I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit in it. So I take this as my God-given right, which is also my civil right. God gives me my rights to do other things. I know we need politicians, and I'm not going to talk about that. Present company excluded. I mean, we need you. We're a nice community, and we need some voices of reason. But I also get my other rights from the Constitution. And the Constitution tells me that it's an enumeration of my God-given rights. It just tells me this is what you can do. And I know for a fact, I know in my heart that this is my civil right. Now, I'm sorry that I also believe that the people that are against this just don't like the way I look at their lunch counter, and they want me to get out. But I live on a 43-acre lot in Litchfield, which I'm almost afraid to say because I'll give you a little back history on this. I know about 15 other people that some of our detractors have started to call monster grows, because that's kind of scary, and you want to scare off the people that there's these monster grows and mega grows and all these things in town with fences and guns and all of that. Just want you to know, that's not me. But my nearest neighbors are over a quarter mile away. All 4 of the properties that touch my property are bigger than 40 acres. And all 4 of the couples that live in them are either current CDC employees or retired CDC employees, the husband and wife of both. There are no children of any sort that live within a mile of me. By the way, I don't want your kids to smoke weed either. It didn't do much for me when I was a kid, but you got to find out on your own, that's your thing. And I've talked to them numerous times. I walked my guard dogs. I have a Chihuahua, a Chiweenie, and a Lab. That if you come to my place, they will lick you to death, and it will take about the same amount of time as being kicked to death by a jackrabbit. So, if my neighbors are afraid of my dogs, they're, maybe they should relax a little bit. They're not. But I go there and I talk to them almost every day. I talked to one this morning, my next door neighbor, who's also civic-minded, and told him I was coming down here, and he's like, still? And I'm like, yeah, it's an ongoing process, man. The wheels of justice grind slowly. So, I spent a few days watching the last 2 YouTube channel supervisors meetings. I understand the plight in the minds of some of the people that spoke that are against this. But I'd like to tell you why I'm for this. One gentleman said he was worried about houses burning down due to butane. So am I. Butane extraction of THC from marijuana is already illegal under the manufacturing code. I equate that with methamphetamine, which I'm not for, by the way. Just want to get that on record. But I have my marijuana that I've grown extracted off-site in a closed-loop, non-flammable CO2 extraction system that's based on technology that's been around for 100 years to extract the oils from, for instance, lavender and vanilla. It's done in an industrial park, and everything's done off-site. I don't want to burn down my neighbor's place. I think my place would look better if all the sagebrush was burnt to the ground, but it comes back on its own. There was a lady in here that complained about her asthma and the pollen. Most of the people in this room have had kids in 4-H. Any 2-year 4-H student could tell you in a clinical way that pollen is the sperm of the male plant of every variety. Marijuana growers don't grow male plants. They only grow female plants. Later in that lady's discussion, she talked about the big flower that she could see sticking above the 10-foot fence. Only female flowers, only female plants flower of every variety. So it's her experience that she gets sick. I can't deny it's her experience, not mine. There's a discussion about the amount of plants. I have a totally valid state certificate that says I can grow 99 flowering plants on my property. Some of you are farmers, some of you are ranchers. I know a couple people on this board that are ranchers and farmers. In the alfalfa business, if you get 3 cuttings, you've done good. If you get a 4th cutting, you've done really good. Marijuana runs on the same thing. It naturally only flowers once and dies, and that's it, somewhere in around October. But through processes in greenhouses, you can get a flowering to happen unnaturally. I do that. I had last year 2 crops of 99 that were both legal under the letter and spirit of the law. I only grow to supply 2 legal dispensaries that are not in this county. The outlaw market of people that grow and sell on the street, I don't know anything about that. Although I do know that if you allow legal growing in the county, you'll be helping. I don't know how many of you have taken a hike through federal forest land recently. I have, in the Trinity Alps. I've seen illegal grows done by the cartels from down south where they plant people there, and they are loaded with booby traps and AKs. I've seen it. I know what an AK looks like with my naked eye from over a quarter mile away. So it's like, yeah, that's not good. If you allow this here in town, you can also be putting your finger in the eye of illegal drug cartels. Those people are coming and they're not going away. The only way you can get them to go away is to take the money out of illegal grows, which you can do legally here. I know some of you are ranchers, and to me, I'm just a rancher of wheat. And I listen to the complaints and I'm like, now what are we going to do? Tell guys they can't ranch more than 99 plants on their or 99 cows on their lot. If these people that complain about this were from PETA, in this room, they'd all get a pretty good laugh. If they told you, we don't like cows because they flatulate and it's making greenhouse gases, and we all know that's nonsense. But the reason that sometimes you have to grow more is by the end of the year, you're not going to have that much. I've gone to sleep on a Thursday night with 99 plants and woke up in the morning to 93 plants because grasshoppers have eaten 6-foot plants down to a pencil overnight. And I don't use pesticides because the people that I supply don't allow pesticides. I don't want my fellow citizens to be breathing in pesticides. I also employ people from this county, people from my church, and also other citizens who can't, for some reason or another, get a job. They're unemployable. They have anxiety disorders, or they just don't look right for town to get a job. At times I employ them. They're not on public assistance. They're not double dipping illegally. They just don't have money. I have records from last year where I spent in town, in this county, $14,000. And like I said, I'm not even the top 10 guy. So that's about $200,000 that I know of being spent here. I don't know why we'd want to cut that down from our tax base. I'm also pretty sure that the guys that talked me into coming here, they're going to continue to do what they do and support the county. But none of them want to go to jail. They just don't. I don't think we have the funds to jail them all anyway. But also, a lady talked about the smoke. I don't allow smoking or drinking on my property, especially during harvest season. Sometimes, and by the way, just in our lifetime, I would have got a life sentence for having this in the courthouse or at a supervisor meeting. This is the stalk from the tree. People burn them. I save them and I use them as kindling. Last night I lit a fire using about 4 of these in a very efficient wood burning stove. So I don't have piles of smoke going up, and I don't have gangs of cars. My neighbors have more people come to visit them than I ever have at my house. And I've also seen firsthand the medical benefits of this. When I got back from Iraq, the VA would have been more than happy to load us all up, pump us all up on head meds. I chose not to. Some of my friends did. And some of them couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And now I've seen a gang of guys and also one woman who couldn't get out of bed, that with just a little bit of this that they ingest, they're able to go and have functioning lives. So that's about all I got to say about all this. I would hope that on the number of plants, if you have a permit to do a certain number, you should be allowed to do that number without impediment from that. I understand people don't want to have that. The people that complain about their property values going down, they say people are buying lots right next to them to grow wheat on. Seems like that would bring your property value up. And one thing that would bring it down is if they came and closed me down and I just let them have my house and have the bank take it back. How's that going to look on the rest of my neighbors who wouldn't have even comparable places or comparable prices to sell their house? These are just some of the things as I see them, and I would hope that you would take some of that into light when you make your decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else to speak on public comment? Seeing none, we will move on. Unagendized reports by board members. Judge, you got anything?
No, I don't.
All right.
I'll just be leaving Sacramento to do the RCRC. That's all I have.
I attended the Association of Defense Communities meeting this weekend. Spoke with the facilities general and his staff about Sierra Army Depot. They're leaning towards these public-private partnerships in a big way. And they know us now. And hopefully, there's an impending BRAC coming in 2017. The military service are pressing for this BRAC, which is not good news. we want to establish some public-private partnerships to stabilize our base, and we're working on that. They're all for it. They're all for it. So we've got a lot of support down there. They are aware of the Army Depot now. The state is aware of the Army Depot now. I met the California Government Military Council #1 guy for Governor Brown's, who will soon be visiting us. It was a real informative meeting, but there's some uncertain times in the future for the Department of Defense, which affects our county greatly. So I was amazed at the way the other defense communities are organized. I'd like to see us head in that direction. And that starts with staff and this board and our communities to try to support our base. That's it.
Thank you, Tom. Jim?
And just a couple items, Mr. Chairman. A couple upcoming events to make everybody aware of. On the 18th of April will be the 26th Annual Junior Fishing Derby, and I did provide some of the board members with some posters and some registration forms that they could maybe take back to their parts of the county to distribute, because hopefully we'll get wide participation in this. Normally we have between 500 and 600 kids turn out for the Derby starting in 1989, so just wanted to kind of put in a plug for that. And also this coming Saturday, the Rotary Club of Susan will be holding its annual radio auction on KSUE, so if you're out and about and want to listen in, there's a lot of great merchandise and prizes that will be offered with the funds being raised to support Rotary's project. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, we'll move on to F1, Lassen County Fish and Game Commission resolution. Who's going to take that? There you go. Don and Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I brought reinforcements.
I see that, yeah. Never say no to you guys.
Don Armentrout, Chairman of the Lassen County Fish and Game Commission, and Paul Chappelle, Vice Chair of the Lassen County Fish and Game Commission. Since you folks got a copy of the Morris letter from the district attorney, I guess we're going to have to start with some history. Tracy Lee Schultz was arrested for poaching, and he had trapped numerous bobcats. He was found guilty in court. The Department of Fish and Wildlife sold the pelts, which they have the discretion to do, and the total income from that was $14,835.
Paul Kessler, Don. The agenda item is for the...
Okay, well, I'm bringing you to that. Yeah. I'm bringing
That's
you
really
to
what
that.
the agenda item is. If you
Okay.
want to speak of that, you probably should do it fully comment.
Okay, we'll skip that.
Is that how you see it, Council? I don't want to get in trouble here.
Well,
The agenda item does not have that court case.
but what he's speaking to segues to the resolution that they're proposing. And
But that's not the resolution from Brian Duff and sending the dog.
but it segues to that, sir.
Okay, you go ahead.
All right. Anyway, the Department of Judge Bradbury ordered that money be given to the Fish and Game Commission in Lassen County. The Department of Fish and Wildlife came back quoting Code 12160 and 12159, saying that anything over $100 goes to them under those codes. So we didn't get the money. Further research, however, found some more parts of their code which disagrees with 12160 and 12161. I'll let Paul explain those two.
There exists a conflict between the two sections of the code. In section 12160, it directs that the monies be sent directly to the Department of Fish and Game through the Fish and Wildlife Preservation, or Fish and Game Preservation Fund. However, Fish and Game Code section 13003 directs that all fines and forfeitures imposed or collected in any court of the state for violations of the provisions of this code shall be deposited as soon as practicable, in the receipt thereof of the county treasurer of the county in which the court is situated. It further stipulates that one half of the proceeds shall be deposited into the Fishing Game Preservation Fund and the balance to the county treasury in which the offense was committed. That didn't happen. So what we're trying to do is present to you a resolution which would go before our state legislature, trying to rectify the differences in the code sections so that there are no questions as to where the fine money shall be collected in the future. Of that $14,585, we got zero. The Department of Fish and Game held on to that check. According to their own code section, we should have received that check and dispersed half of it to the Fish and Game Preservation Fund. We would like to make sure that this does not happen again because our commission operates solely on the fines that are collected for fish and game violations. In order to be able to do that, we have to be able to collect those funds. And the way this conflict is right now in the Fish and Game Code, there is discretion evidently for the Department of Fish and Game to pick and choose which sections of the code it wants to use and take the money, therefore we've got nothing. So we're trying to rectify that through this resolution to the board, asking for your assistance to help us take this forward to Assemblyman Dowling to introduce it to the legislature to change it.
Thank you. Any questions for Don or Aaron?
In here, you have the Fish and Game Preservation Fund. What is that, and how does the Fish and Game use that?
The Fish and Game Preservation Fund is one of many funds within the Department of Fish and Wildlife. That money is generally collected from fines in a variety of other areas, and they can use it towards the preservation of fish and wildlife and habitat. It's essentially the same sort of situation that we would use our Lassen County Fish and Game Fund, per se.